In this video, we're going to be comparing the two most common budget entry-level turntables, the Audio-Technica LP60X and the SONY PS-LX310BT. Alright, so these two turntables top the list every year as a great place to start for getting into vinyl records. I'm going to be breaking down the similarities and differences in a number of categories so you can best decide which one to go with. As an FYI, this is more of an average user's experience review and not an audiophile take. For that, you're going to have to look in the links in the description where I've left some important details about specs and other nitty-gritty if you want to get into that. First up, let's talk similarities. These two share some commonalities that make them a really compelling choice for those just getting into vinyl records. Both of these turntables are fully automatic belt-driven turntables. This means that they do most of the work for you. It's really simple to just throw on a record, hit play, and just let it go. Both will reset the tone arm when the record is finished playing, so you don't have to do that manually. The automatic nature makes them dead simple to start with. They both have a built-in preamp, meaning you only need a set of powered speakers with dual RCA inputs to get up and running. There's no need for extra audio equipment, though both have the ability to use external phono preamps if you want to enhance your sound experience. Lastly, they both come with a felt slip mat and a plastic dust cover. Okay, so that's a fair amount of similarities, but let's talk price because that's where the differences start and they stack up from there. The SONY only comes as a wireless model, and that costs $228 MSRP. The Audio-Technica LP60X goes for $129 MSRP for the bare bones kit, or $179 for the wireless model, which is the one I have here. These are very different looking turntables. The SONY looks like a very sleek, modern device with sharp edges, angles for days, hidden controls, and modern design cues throughout. The Audio-Technica clearly has a retro look in mind. It's far boxier and clunkier looking, and even the buttons stand out. That said, it's way more compact, coming in 3 inches smaller in width and half an inch shorter. It's also 3 pounds lighter than the SONY. The dust covers and tone arms are different as well. The Audio-Technica has a heavier tone arm, which I like, but the tinted dust cover on the SONY enhances the minimalistic look. I'm noticing that the sun has come out, so excuse the abrupt change in lighting. It was all moody, and now it's bright. Okay, I think we fixed that. A little bit of blinders. Where were we? Oh yes, the build. As far as build and design goes, it's really just gonna come down to which aesthetic speaks to you and which is gonna fit within your home better. For now, let's talk about the setup process. As I mentioned before, both the SONY and Audio-Technica contain a built-in preamp, so all you need is a set of powered or Bluetooth speakers to get started if you have the Bluetooth model. In my case, I have passive speakers that are amped by my receiver, so all we need to do is hook up the dual RCA cables from the turntable into my receiver. On the SONY, just toggle the setting on the back to line in. On the Audio-Technica, you do the same. Then just turn on your receiver or speakers and you're all set. Now, the Sony's RCA cables are attached to the back of the device, and I really don't like that. It was actually one of my main complaints in the review I made, which you can check out up here or here somewhere. The Audio-Technica, on the other hand, has a detachable cable, which is a nice perk, so you can always swap them out for longer ones if your setup requires it. On both models, you can just hit start to play, stop to stop, and use the up-down button if you want to manually control the playback. When it comes to setup, the Audio-Technica simply has more flexibility because of the detachable RCA cables. Other than that, though, the process for both is very similar. There is one other area that the Audio-Technica has the edge in here, and that's the easily replaceable cartridge for the stylus on the tone arm. If it's damaged or you just want to pick up a different one, it's fairly easy to replace, and you can't do that on the SONY at all. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Next up, we're going to talk about arguably the most important aspect of listening to music: sound quality. I've been using the SONY for about a year now and the Audio-Technica for a few weeks. Up front, both are really solid in the sound department, but I decided to run a few tests to see if I could pick up any differences. I've tested both turntables with their built-in preamps and their included felt mats to keep the comparison fair. So I'm not gonna use my rubber slip mat or the external phono preamp I have, since those are additional purchases. I will have a video in a few weeks where I talk about some inexpensive ways to upgrade your turntable setup without going crazy, so please subscribe so you don't miss that. I decided to run the sound test with a few different genres so I can get a diverse range of comparisons. For hip hop, I used Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar. For jazz, I used the Cowboy Bebop original soundtrack. For rock and alternative, I use Second Law by Muse and Zaba by Glass Animals. And for electronic, I use Worlds by Porter Robinson and Random Access Memories by Daft Punk. Now, this may not be what you came to hear, but I don't think there's much of a difference. The Sony may have the slightest edge when it comes to the built-in preamp, but that's more of a volume boost thanks to the gain knob on the back. Honestly, they both sound very, very good. Take a listen.
3, 2, 1, it's jam.
So to make sure that it was the preamp causing the difference and to eliminate any other variables like the needle or something else, I did run a test hooking it up to my external preamp, the Art DJ Pre 2, and I found that the differences at that point were negligible too. The results here make a lot of sense. They both sound very good for this price, and you're not going to notice a drastic quality difference until you step up to higher level turntables in the next price bracket. In this budget range, their differentiating factors need to come from their features and design more so than just sound. That's where they really need to stand apart. On that note, there are a few other small differences that I wanted to point out. The Sony has the ability to back up your records to high quality digital files using recording software and USB. The Audio-Technica doesn't have this. With regards to the replaceable stylus, the Audio-Technica by far has the best ecosystem of potential upgrades, but I'm not sure that should be the main deciding factor when purchasing your starting turntable. If you want the flexibility of upgrading your cartridge after 1,000 hours of listening, then yes, that's a major point in Audio-Technica's favor. It's widely compatible with many cartridges, and it's very easy to replace where the Sony requires a custom part to be ordered. But for this price range, if your goal is upgradability, a more expensive stylus to upgrade your entry-level turntable feels like a waste of money. I'm not sure that upgradability should be the deciding factor for most people getting into vinyl. Sure, it'll work, but you may end up causing a bottleneck on your sound quality. Instead, you may just want to start with a better baseline turntable altogether. Honestly, the biggest differences that I found between the two have to do with the overall build and flexibility of the setup. Because of that, you can't really go wrong either way because your personal preferences will depend based on what your needs are for your setup. Alright, that was a lot of ground to cover, so in conclusion, here's where I stand. If you want something that's going to be extremely flexible, adaptable, and upgradable over time, and you're serious about getting into records for the long haul, then the Audio-Technica may be the one to go with. And if price is the biggest factor, then the Audio-Technica is definitely the winner in that department as well. Not only can you alter it to more easily fit your personal audio needs, but it will also teach you some fundamentals that may come in handy if you step up to higher level turntables later on. That said, if you already know you're going to be focused on upgrading your setup over time, then perhaps it may be wise to step up to a better turntable altogether. This is because with a slightly higher end model like the LP3 or LP120X, you're going to be getting a better cartridge off the bat, and you can only go up from there. The sky's the limit. If you don't really know where to start, or if you're unsure of where you want to go down the line and just want a frictionless, easy to set up turntable to get your feet wet, then the Sony is the one for you. For myself, I'm going to be using the Sony for the foreseeable future, and here's why. The aesthetics are a big part of it for me. It fits so cleanly into my setup, and its appearance and user-friendly nature is what compels me to actually use it. It's top tier in that regard. It's simple, and it suits my needs. Since I already have an external phono preamp, the sound quality difference didn't matter that much to me, though I gotta say, running these tests definitely have me thinking about one day pulling the trigger on a higher end device. That's going to do it for this video. I hope it was helpful. If so, please consider subscribing and leave a like and comment down below which way are you leaning, or if you have any other questions, just feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next time, and thank you so much for watching.